Howdy ho, tubers. I have recently been um, listening to quite a few podcasts from Common Sense Atheism. That's a blog, but they have um, MP3s that you can download to give audio interviews by the, I suppose you'd call him the Common Sense Atheist, Luke Prog is his name, Luke Prog, and he interviews various people. Sometimes they're Christian philosophers, sometimes they're atheist philosophers, sometimes they're talking about ethics as opposed to religion per se. But some very good stuff there. Um, of course, I disagree with his conclusions. That is Luke's conclusions that atheism is common sense and true. Um, but he does give a fair hearing, and he's uh, more persuasive, shall we say, than certain other atheists. Some atheists don't really know what they're talking about. But he, for example, when talking with somebody about the Jesus, the idea of Jesus being his death and resurrection, according to the Bible, being a copycat of various pre-Christian myths, he rightly points out that that's not true. That it is different from that kind of argument is not a good one. That Jesus was copied from other religions, and he has familiarized himself with various arguments of Christian apologists, and he's not really so much debating usually with his guests. He's more kind of getting their point of view, but based on the questions he's asking and the various things that he has read that he alludes to while he's talking to them, and the various things he asks people about various objections, it shows that he does know what he's talking about. Um, but it's given me a lot of ideas for videos to do on my channel here. And the first one I wanted to do related to this Common Sense Atheism blog, I'm currently going through an interview he's doing with Richard Carrier, um, who is a outspoken skeptic on the internet. Infidels.org is his the main place where you may have heard of him from. And in this interview, Richard Carrier says that he uh, was raised in some type of a Christian home, and he converted to Taoism at some point. And then one day somebody was witnessing to him and told him that he needed to read the Bible. So he read the Bible cover to cover, and that is what convinced him to be uh, an atheist, reading the Bible. But he said more than this. He said that's the number one deconverter of people is when they read the Bible. Well, I think that a lot of people do make that claim that they don't believe in God because they have read the Bible. At least they don't believe in Christianity because they have read the Bible. So I suppose that that is true. That some people will find things in the Bible when they read it for themselves that they will use to turn away from belief in God. But the more important question, I think, is not does that happen, but should it happen? And perhaps we could reflect on that for a moment. I think that one of the things that we have to be careful about when we're reading the Bible for the first time, it's very easy to misunderstand it. So I think that there is a virtue in the scriptures being available for all, as Martin Luther and John Wycliffe and others, Tyndale and all these people in the days around the time of the Reformation, the Protestant Reformation, they wanted the Bible to be read by the common man. Everybody should have access to the Bible, they said, and the Bible should be the Bible is perspicuous, if I'm saying that right, which means that anybody can understand it. But I think that while that is true, I would say that it's good for everybody to be able to read the Bible for themselves, and that it is easy to understand in a sense. It's perspicuous. I think that there are parts of it that can be easily misunderstood by a person who is uneducated and unfamiliar with the history of the Bible, as far as it being copied and the various historical context in which it was written, and so on and so forth. When somebody is not educated in that sense, and they're new to the Bible, it's very easy to read things into it that aren't there. All kinds of contradictions and so on seem to be there, which when you have a deeper understanding will there's good answers for them. So, for example, in the Gospels, in one in if you compare the different Gospels to one another to try to work out a synopsis, if you will, of the Gospel, the story of Jesus, you'll find that certain events happen in different orders. Uh, did Jesus cast out the money changers in the temple at the beginning of his ministry or at the end of his ministry? That's an example that Bart Ehrman gives in Jesus Interrupted. John, I think, has it appearing as though it was at the end of the ministry, and I think all the synoptics, I think, have it at the beginning. Matthew, Mark, and Luke have it at the beginning, I think. So that does seem like a contradiction, but then when you realize that the general practice of ancient biography was not held to the same standard of chronology as a modern historical account would be today by a professional historian, that they were free in the conventions of the genre of ancient biography to move things around. It still happened, but it could have happened in the middle of his ministry, and people could have spoken, could have written as though it happened at the beginning or as though it happened at the end. So it's not a contradiction. It is a literary convention in the genre of ancient biography. So apparently other people were doing that. That was the standard practice. So it's not false. It's not untrue. It's not contradictory. It's not lying or deceiving. It was just understood, apparently, that that was done in that type of literature. So when a person is unaware of that, though, they may, if they're really paying attention as they're reading the Gospels in a parallel fashion, they might think that these are contradictions and therefore the Bible is not the Word of God. But it's really not a contradiction. So the point I'm trying to make is when somebody is reading the Bible cover to cover for the first time, they're not going to know. Well, I suppose they could know if they've had the read the right books or had the right education. But uh, uh, most people that read it for the first time aren't going to know all these hermeneutical principles. So there's a lot of uh, things that people have developed. It's almost like a science, biblical hermeneutics, that they're not going to know about. I did a whole series on hermeneutics a while ago, Bible interpretation or literary interpretation, more generally, is what hermeneutics is. Um, and while the main message of the Bible is uh, clear, God loves us, Jesus died for us, etc., etc. Uh, some of the particulars, like the exact moment that Jesus cast out the money changers. I mean, they didn't have watches, digital watches that reset from a satellite based on atomic time. They had sundials. That was one of the better ways of telling time, is either seeing where the sun was in the sky or looking at a sundial. So they weren't as concerned about chronology as we are today. It was a different context than we are in today. We can't read our own situation back into it. And I think that when people see these things, and the list could be multiplied, the she bears and Elijah and different things in Genesis 1 and 2 and so on and so forth, uh, it does look like the Bible is riddled with contradictions. Um, so it would be harder to believe if we thought that was really true, that it really does contradict itself all over the place. But I think if we give it a more fair reading, it is an ancient work, an ancient document. We should take it on its own terms, not try to fit it into a modern context. And then I think it would appear not contradictory, and it would be something that would not lead to unbelief in people who read it. And if these people who read the Bible and then lose any faith that they may or may not have had, if they convert to atheism after reading the Bible, uh, it could be that they're being a bit premature. They just need to spend more time reading it, more studying it, and not think that just because they've read the Bible once for themselves, that they know everything there is about it. Because people that do believe in the Bible, there are people that become Christians after reading the Bible. And there are people, the Christian church has been studying the Bible intensely for 2,000 years. So I think that these scholars, believing scholars, are not complete and total idiots. So if it was really as bad as people like Richard Carrier seem to think, uh, it would seem that they would have left the faith a long time ago, but yet they still believe, and we learn more and more about the Bible as time goes on, because there's kind of a progressive, it's like a snowball effect almost, when we just get more and more into the fine details of deeper and deeper in to the meaning there in the text. So that was just an observation that I wanted to make, that kind of came to me as I was listening to Richard Carey, and I've heard a lot of people say, uh, I was having struggles with my faith, and then I said, well, maybe if I read the Bible, then that'll help, and I read it, and I couldn't believe what was in it, and so now I totally lost faith. So I think that while that does happen, I think people really should be more careful in how they treat the Bible, not just take it at face value as a modern book that was faxed to us yesterday from heaven, but read it in the context in which it was written, and in which it has, in a certain sense, changed over time, um, as it was copied, in a sense, and translated. But I really can't qualify that any further because I'm out of time. Thank you all for watching. Shalom.